It's another Marvel Monday, and so today I'm going to be taking a look at the Joe Fixit Build-A-Figure. Now, Joe Fixit first made his appearance in the very late 80s during the Peter David run, which was a phenomenal run on the character, which transformed the Hulk for many years. And Joe Fixit was a new persona of the Hulk that was masquerading as a sort of gangster in Las Vegas for a few years. So this was a really fun period of comics. Now, the look that they've chosen for the BAF seems to be a more modern interpretation. I'm not actually familiar with this particular look, but you can see this is what the figure's really clearly based on, the blue suit. And of course, in order to build this figure, you had to buy all 6 in the wave to make him up. Bit of a mixed bag this wave for me personally. I really liked the Jocasta, the Kang certainly. Obviously I'm a huge 90s fan, so having a Thunderstrike was really unexpected but very, very pleasing to have. But the Falcon and the Gamerverse figures really was not interested in, to be honest. So only really half the wave appealed, so again it is having to buy all 6 for this BAF. So of course it does beg the question, is he worth it? Well, first off, visually very striking, obviously very accurate to that representation we just saw earlier. So I think they've really captured the look of the character. I think it's great. I do love the suit. Clearly, this is, obviously, they've decided to reutilise the sort of Kingpin mould that we've seen before, but there are differences. The suit, obviously, is closed rather than open. The head is obviously a brand new sculpt, and in terms of its articulation, it can move from side to side. It does have... The hat is fixed on, you can't remove that. That can be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on how you feel about that kind of thing. For me, I think it's part of the look, and I don't want to lose it, and it looks proper this way. Whereas if it's a separate piece, it might not look right. So I think that looks really good. Like I said, the articulation goes up and down as well, which is great. He does, of course, have those big ball-jointed shoulders. And he's got the single jointed elbow with the bicep swivel there as well. So, decent range of articulation there for a big chunky figure like this. It's not realistic really to have, double jointed elbows. I think this is perfectly appropriate and looks really solid. His hands can swivel 360 degrees at the wrist, which is great. He does have the hinge joint there to swivel his hands back and forth, but they can't really move very far because they are impeded by the cuff there, which is a solid plastic. He does have the upper ab articulation, that sort of ball joint in the chest. Not a great deal you can do with it. As I said, the coat is closed, so there's not a great range of posability there. The collar and tie are a solid one piece, but they are obviously late editions, so they do tend to move about. I'm not convinced by how that looks myself. I'm not too pleased with it. In terms of his legs, obviously he does have those big, again, the same sort of hip joints that we're used to seeing, so the legs do go forwards and backwards. He does have the thigh swivel as well, which is great, and of course the legs do hinge out, so, good range of motion there, which is great. The single jointed knees, and of course the ankle pivot. Again, the ankle pivot is there, but you can't really do very much with it because the trouser cuff really limits articulation. But his overall look and demeanour is really solid. I'm a huge fan of the Peter David run, and I really love Joe Fixit as a character, so this figure has been successful in capturing the essence of the character, certainly his look and appearance, which is great. For the sake of comparison, here he is next to the Marvel Legends Face-Off Hulk from ToyBiz from a few years ago. As you can see, obviously the Green Hulk towers above him, which is entirely appropriate because Joe Fixit is a slightly smaller Hulk, so this looks fine to me, this looks really good. Here he is next to the Wendigo Build-A-Figure. Again, in terms of the scale, this looks about right to me, to be honest. I think this looks pretty decent. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. And here he is next to a Marvel Legends Spider-Man. So again, we can see that the scale is accurate and appropriate. So this looks really decent. And I think it's worth pointing out that despite being quite a popular character and there being many, many different Hulks on the market produced over the years in this line, this is only actually the second time we've got a Joe Fixit. ToyBiz did a version of the character a couple of years before the Marvel Legends range started, actually. And it's been a very difficult figure to get hold of. It's been a fan favourite for many years, and you can see that they put a lot of love into this version of the character when they did it. So they gave him a leather coat, they gave him the pinstripe trousers. He's battle damaged, so he's got bullet holes in his waistcoat and in parts of his clothes, which is great. He has gloves on the hands, which again is something I always associate with the character. And of course he comes with a Tommy gun, and he's got a removable hat as well, as you can see here, so you can kind of play around with his look a little bit. So it's really interesting putting these two side by side. One of the striking things that you'll notice obviously about the ToyBiz version is that he does have that unseemly trigger in his back, because he does have an action that if you pull it down he fires his gun. But when you compare them, there's things I love about both of them. I definitely think that the new Hasbro version, the Build-A-Figure, is more appropriate in terms of his size, his scale, his overall look. He looks more consistent overall, in proportion, so he looks really good, whereas the ToyBiz version looks a little bit dumpy and strange. I'm not a big fan of action features in my toys as an adult collector, so that hurts the ToyBiz version as well. That being said, I do love the coat that he's been given. I also love his gloves. I actually prefer his spats, and I think the pinstripe on the trousers, lovely paint apps and lovely attention to detail there. Both head sculpts are really good, I think, to be fair, although again I would say I probably think the ToyBiz is probably more accurate to the Peter David look. So this sculpt probably edges it out for me just slightly. And like I said, I do really like the battle damage look as well. But I think what we've got with the Hasbro version is really solid. I think it's a very good attempt at the figure. I do much prefer the scale, and it's obviously a much neater, more polished look, which I think is again entirely appropriate, and I like that. I think that works really well. I think one of the things that really works against the Build-A-Figure though is just he feels limited in terms of his articulation, and it doesn't feel like you can do much with him. So when it comes down to the age-old question, is he worth all the figures in the wave? It depends how much of a fan you are. For me, I'm a die-hard fan. This is only the second time we've seen the character, so yes, I wanted to get him absolutely. So he was worth it for me. I think if you're a casual fan, or say you're not mad about many of the figures in the wave, then he probably isn't worth it. Overall, I have to say, this is a 3-star figure. His articulation, although it's there, is very limited in practical terms, and also I think there's a slightly dull appearance to the character, just because it's one tone of colour. Maybe some paint wash or some different apps in there would have been could have enhanced it to look a bit more vibrant, or whatever they could have done. But as it is, it's just one big blue mass on the shelf, which it isn't bad, not by a long shot, but it also it doesn't really pop. I hope you enjoyed the vid. If you did, please do give it a like, and remember to subscribe, as I'll be posting more videos soon.